Fliegt oder con la machinería? Sauber auf. Nooit inderdaad служил в Германии. А он столько стали от него продал, а почему я это что? Когда приехал вторую машину, другую машину купил. Ja, hatte ich. Unter der Leitung, die wir haben gesehen.
Marrant, la consommation, elle vient de faire l'antenne.
Насколько тебя было? Один опыт, 2 часа работает, постоянно.
Tout ton système, et puis tu as une tranche.
Я когда значит, две риски, 4 конверсии. Когда относится к меня все Ah, ça,
Bah, ça devrait être comme ça, normalement. Pas qu'elle soit dans la neige et que c'est soit contre les choses, soit c'est à l'antenne.
Ja, auf jeden Fall. Ты доволен этой камерой?
не очень.
Почему?
Ну,
Слабо.
ну, из-за судорог было страшно ручной выставлять, высылаживание начинает стрелять. Потом криворучки. У меня Sony деловой тогда.
Sony хорошо делает. Sony лучше, у него фокус хороший, все тоже хорошо.
Что-то важное.
Давай, сними Ваня.
Главная команда.
Они же бумажные генералы.
Его милость.
Do you have to use the country code or?
Yeah.
Okay, so 0032 for Belgium. 475 75 38 03. So you can send me a WhatsApp tonight. Get the question. No promises, but it's okay.
Не знаю. Прячешь просто. Такого.
Здесь вообще рук оторвали, если я не знаю. Такой хороший специалист с языками. Тегеран 43? Тегеран 43.
Там тоже будет. Недавно новое. Посылает камеру.
Ага, да. когда-нибудь снимал? Что?
Это разводится,
Нет, я был на камеру. Я на камеру.
Ничего еще остались.
Я сейчас смотрю, некоторые ходят клоночными фотоаппаратами.
Мне больше нравится. Они это художественное развитие. Когда вот кино снимают, мы специально кино. Это немножко развитие.
Минутка. Спрашивает дед, что такое свадьба? Свадьба такая вещь, сколько хочешь танцевать, вертись, ночью все равно увидишь.
Я думаю, сейчас
Тоже 2 раза был. Когда первый раз Лукашенко выбрал, тогда
еще первый раз был, конечно, Саакашвили.
и потом, когда Саакашвили, тогда все. Когда вот это сейчас кролики, как они называются? Зайчики, вот это да. Пришел гостиницу, хочу, что платить долларом. Они говорят, ни долларом не принимайте, пойдите. А то я пошел, типа, а это было $350. Надо заплатить. Дали 6 миллионов. Я дайте хотя бы целлофан, как это будет. Да, в центре жили.
Зато Лукашенко нет. Знаешь,
зайчики были, да, Лукашенко тоже.
они появились в доме.
Они
после разговора.
К нам идет?
Польская делегация идет туда, значит будет польский министр. Он же вице-премьер-министр.
Я дегустацию взял с параметром 80-е года.
Чтобы его пригласить сюда, посмотреть. Он первый раз.
Пане прем'єре, є одне питання.
Видишь, он даже не купился на все.
Надо бы постараться.
Не, есть нормальный министр обороны. Он хочет уже разобраться, где он выход.
Что вы так не разговариваете?
Я попробовал.
когда заходишь.
Диалог у нас не состоялся.
Необитаемый, как говорится, заходишь, надо первый раз посмотреть, цвет палит находишь. А потом уже основное, буфет и все такое.
Чтобы дальше сказать, где такая история, когда я в студии, что интервью баланса застаю, дал следующий вопрос. За 10 минут я не могу. Идет, вот два, все, замечательно. Пока в студии, так история не говорит. Не знаю, как. Подожди, я сейчас расскажу. Я рассказываю.
Хороший человек.
Эстонский министр. Ой, финский министр.
По глазам уже хороший человек.
Хороший человек.
Good morning, Minister.
Yeah, hi, good morning. We're having important day today, and there's NATO's defense and deterrence and plans now at the table. As Finland for new NATO member, we are looking forward to intensify and strengthen these NATO's regional plans and command and control system, and we are putting our own effort also to the structure. Of course, it's important to have this dialogue between Ukraine and NATO. Support for Ukraine must be strong as long as it's needed. But I will willing to answer questions.
Will Finland participate in steadfast defender drills?
We will take part in these exercises in the Northern Europe.
What is about? Because propaganda of Lukashenko and Putin, they said that it's a kind of repetition of Third World War. What is really about?
I'm not familiar about those accusations, but we are exercising to defend all NATO territory and executability of these regional plans. That's why it's highly important that the exercises are in the full scale also in the Northern Europe, when there is a new members, Finland and soon Sweden also.
The US government is warning that Ukraine is running out of ammunition. Is it too little, too late, what the West is doing to support Ukraine?
Well, in Finland we did quite a big decision on the last December to double our ammunition production, and that we are also putting our pennies to the core. And well, I don't know what is the acute kind of situation what the United States is now saying, but I think in European Union countries there's good signs that Europe can provide ammunitions quite a lot in the next year or two. It's going in the right direction now.
Minister, burden sharing is actually a big topic. What is your message or Europe's message to the USA? Is Europe willing to step up when there is a possible lack of American support?
Well, European countries must take a much more bigger role in our own defense. That means two things, ramping up the defense budgets and also ramping up this defense industry fast. It must be done fast, and I think that is the best sign that we can send now to the transatlantic relations.
So would you say that you actually cannot compensate the lack of American support right now?
Well, Europe has quite a big economy that we can do what we want to do, and that's a kind of a political leadership that we must do those decisions now. Thank you. I have to go.
Question about the US government border. Do you plan to build this fortification line, I mean these bunkers and other measures, not only on the border with Russia, but also on the border with Belarus?
Yes, border protection defense is an important task for all frontline countries. We have signed an agreement with our Lithuanian and Estonian counterparts on coordinating our activities on Baltic defense lines Each country, of course, comes with its own specific plans, but at the same time, the coordination of activities are part of the Baltic the Defense Alliance Agreement. And certainly the border with Russia and also border with Belarus must be strengthened. We already have built a fence to protect our border and the country against illegal migration flows. But at the same time, of course, also the military counter-mobility is part of the border strengthening in our defense.
The US government is warning that Ukraine is running out of ammunition. Is the West doing too little too late to support the country?
It is important to continuously support Ukraine. We've done a lot, and also United States have done a lot, and also European Union has done a lot. Of course, it's always that many additional things can be done as well. It also depends on the development of our own military industry, on coordinating those activities. We had just also the European defense ministers meeting, and certainly there is an effort and there is an ambition to actively support also in terms of ammunition. So by the end of the year, that 1 million ammunition rounds must be achieved, and I am absolutely certain it will be achieved.
There are also reports that Russia is working on a space-based nuclear weapons program. How concerned are you about this?
Well, the most important is for us to develop our own strengths and efficiency. We should act and also communicate from positions of strength. Russia is an aggressor country. We should take into account. It can be also for a long time. So in this case, our own capability strengthening, our own harmonization of different military industry activities, our own strengths and efficiency is the major response to such kind of Russian activities.
Steadfast Defender is one of the biggest maneuvers since decades in the NATO. Why is it necessary, even though Russia is saying that this is aggressive?
Exercises are extremely important to show the strength and unity. Exercises also are the element of proactive deterrence. So, of course, we want clearly show the signal of our efficiency, strength and coordination, and Steadfast Defender is absolutely such an example of cooperation, unity, and also the regional dimension, which is important to show also the specifically on the front line that we are able to actively act, mobilize our forces and be efficient.
Some countries are now using military support to Ukraine to reach the 2% goal. Is that fair?
Well, the important part is that we all contribute to our own defenses. Important part is that we, of course, support Ukraine continuously. Last year, there were 11 countries spending 2%. This year, it's 18%. 18 countries already spending 2%. So, of course, all steps are important exactly to show that we are willing to invest. It is also about political investment, but of course political investment demonstrates itself in financial investment and also in support of Ukraine.
About today's meeting, what can Ukraine expect from the NATO side?
Well, we agreed in Vilnius that of course Ukraine will be moving towards the NATO membership. Yes, there is a specific also declaration that once conditions allow and partners or allies agree, but certainly we can do a lot also before Washington summit to make practical steps, to agree on practical steps, and today's discussion also will be about those practical steps. How can we support Ukraine and also how we can cooperate with Ukraine, NATO in format NATO-Ukrainian Council, but only in a wider perspective as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Very excited about. The UK, of course, is putting £200 million into drones for Ukraine, and we've seen very rapid developments in that area. So extremely important. And then on a wider NATO basis, this comes obviously at a critical moment for NATO and for Ukraine. So these are going to be a couple of very important sessions this morning and this afternoon.
Are you worried that Ukraine might run out of ammunition?
Well, constantly it's the case that we need to make sure that Ukraine's got what it needs to win this war. It simply is unconscionable to think that they may not, could not win it. We know that Putin is ramping up his economy. He's pushing his entire population into this war effort. We need to make sure that all civilized nations are prepared to stand right behind Ukraine, as we have from day one and before this invasion started. We'll be doing that right the way through till the end, and this NATO is about stiffening our sinews and getting out there and making sure that we are backing Ukraine, and that's exactly what we'll be doing this morning and in this afternoon's session in particular.
On the 2%, I mean, more countries are meeting that. The UK is already meeting that 2% goal and has for a long time. But are you worried at all that countries like, for example, Germany will soon overtake the UK in terms of being the biggest defence spender? Are you worried about falling behind?
Well, look, we've for always upheld our 2%, and we're pledged to 2.5% as a government, as conditions allow. At the moment, we're somewhere in between the two. So we've always been a big spender in NATO. Actually, I welcome other countries starting to spend the 2% plus now. That's incredibly important for NATO. It's very important that we all do our part. This is, as I said in a recent speech in Lancaster House in London, this is a more dangerous world. Therefore, we need to all step up to the plate. We need to put in more in order to defend ourselves, because defence is the best way of ensuring that we're all safe in the future, not just in Ukraine, but way beyond. Thank you very much.
There are reports in today's paper just about Russia potentially thinking about putting a nuclear weapon in space. This is a US intelligence report. It's not happened yet. It may not be imminent. But are you worried about it?
Well, look, again, to the point, and not commenting specifically on that report, but we know that adversaries will always be looking at new ways to effectively conduct war. Space is a big frontier. Cyber's a big frontier. And that's why we need to be on our mettle. That's why we need to be ready. And that's why NATO is and needs to step up. And that's what today's about. We are stepping up to it. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
That was impressive.
Good morning. Today NATO's defense ministers will meet to address our support to Ukraine and how to further strengthen our deterrence and defense. And to do both, we need to invest more, and we are on the right track because we now have historic numbers when it comes to defense investments. Last year we saw an 11% real increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada. This year we expect 18 allies to meet the target of spending 2% of GDP on defense. And European allies together spend $280 billion on defense. And this is 2% of their combined GDP. But we still have a way to go because at our summit in Vilnius last year, all allies promised to spend 2% of GDP on defense, and 2% is a minimum. Then later on today I will chair a meeting of the NATO-Ukraine Council. We will address how to sustain our support to Ukraine. We see that our support is making a difference on the battlefield every day. Just yesterday, the Ukrainians were able to strike successfully a Russian naval ship, and this demonstrates the skills and the competence of the Ukrainian armed forces, also in conducting deep strikes behind the Russian lines. To ensure that Ukraine gets the weapons, the supplies, the ammunition they need, we need to ramp up production. And NATO allies have, just over the last months, since we agreed the defence investment plan, agreed and signed contracts for 10 billion euros for more orders from different parts of the transatlantic defence industry. I welcome that NATO allies are providing more support, more air defence, more ammunition. I welcome the decision by the European Union to allocate 50 billion euros to Ukraine, and I expect the US Congress to agree a package of continued support to Ukraine, because supporting Ukraine is not charity. Supporting Ukraine is an investment in our own security. And with that, I'm ready to take a few questions.
Secretary General, the recent warning from the US government that Ukraine is running out of ammunition. Isn't it too little, too late what the West is doing to support the country?
We see the impact already of the fact that the US has not been able to make a decision. But I expect the US to be able to make a decision, that the Congress and the House of Representatives will agree continued support to Ukraine, because if we allow President Putin to win, it will not only be bad for the Ukrainians, a tragedy for the Ukrainians, but it will also be dangerous for us. It will make the world even more dangerous and us more vulnerable. So therefore it is in our security interest to do so. I visited the United States a couple of weeks ago. I spent a lot of time with representatives from both sides of the aisle in the US Congress, and the broad message there, there is broad agreement there for sustained support, and I count on the US Congress to be able to reflect that support in a decision to sustain the support for Ukraine.
What's your response to Trump considering proposing a two-tiered NATO alliance, whereby Article 5 would only apply to nations that hit the defense spending targets?
Article 5, the commitment to defend all allies, and that an attack on one ally will be regarded as an attack on all, is the core of NATO, is the heart of NATO. And of course that applies for all allies, because we know that any suggestion that we are not there to protect and defend all allies will undermine the security of all of us, and put at risk our soldiers, our personnel who are on the front lines to protect the whole alliance. So one for all for one applies for all allies, and it's the heart of NATO.
Mr. Secretary General, European leaders seem worried after Donald Trump's statements, and there is talk of strategic autonomy again, maybe even a completely different nuclear capacity. Are you worried that Mr. Trump's statements will signal the beginning of the end of NATO and the beginning of something else in Europe?
So I welcome that European allies are investing more in defence, and NATO has called for that for many, many years. And NATO has also called for European allies to invest more in high-end capabilities, more forces, high readiness, and now European allies are delivering that. That's a good thing. But that's not an alternative to NATO. That is actually a way to strengthen NATO. And we should not pursue any path that indicates that we are trying to divide Europe from North America. The strength is that we have Europe and North America together in NATO. We have to remember that non-EU NATO allies account for 80% of NATO's defense spending. And this is not only about resources, but also about geography. If we look to the south, we have Turkey, a non-EU ally, but important for the southern flank. In the north, you have countries like Norway and Iceland, perhaps not the biggest military powers, but still extremely critical for the transatlantic link, for the protection of the link between North America and Europe. And then in the west, you have the United States, Canada, but also the United Kingdom. So the strength of NATO is that we bring Europe and North America together. Together we have 50% of the world's economic might, 50% of the world's military might. So as long as we stand together, we are able to send a message to any adversary that we are able to protect all allies. On nuclear, let me just say that NATO has a nuclear deterrent, and this has worked for decades, and this is the ultimate deterrence we have. We should, of course, always continue to ensure that this nuclear deterrent of NATO remains safe, secure and effective. And we have agreed procedures for command and control, doctrines, and this is actually a joint effort by the United States and European allies, the NATO nuclear deterrent. We should not do anything to undermine that. That will only create more uncertainty and more room for miscalculation and misunderstanding. So we should be committed to the NATO nuclear deterrent and not do anything to undermine that.
Last question, Sir Carlo, in front of me here, please. Belarus. In 2020, during the post-election protests in Belarus, Putin supported Lukashenko, including a military format reserve of Rosguardia and its border of our country. And because of this, democracy in Belarus lost. If democracy had won, Russia would not have been able to attack Ukraine from Belarus, deploy nuclear weapons, and threaten NATO countries neighboring Belarus. Maybe it's time to change NATO strategy and start supporting people's need of Europe fighting for democracy. And what do you think about the role of Lukashenko in this aggression?
President Lukashenko and Belarus has been a staging ground for the Russian aggression against Ukraine since the very beginning. When Russia amassed troops along the Ukrainian border before the invasion, many of them were deployed in Belarus, and large parts of the invasion actually was launched from Belarus. So Belarus has been complicit to the Russian aggression against Ukraine since the beginning. We strongly believe that all nations have the right to live in freedom, in democracy, and NATO is built on the core values of freedom and democracy, and that also, of course, applies for the people of Belarus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hallo. Bitte meine Stimme zu entschuldigen. Ich bin erkältet, aber nicht verschnupft. Guten Morgen also am ersten Tag, am ersten NATO-Treffen im Jubiläumsjahr des Nordatlantischen Bündnisses. 75 Jahre transatlantische Sicherheitspartnerschaft auf Basis gegenseitigen Vertrauens, 75 Jahre Beistand nach innen und wirksame Abschreckung nach außen. In diesem Kontext ist es wichtig, noch einmal zu betonen, dass Deutschland, wie inzwischen 17 andere auch, in diesem Jahr erstmals die verabredete Quote von 2% erreichen werden. Das ist ein wichtiges Signal. Gerade für uns als zweitgrößter Alliierter ist das ein wichtiger Beitrag auch zur Lastenteilung innerhalb des Bündnisses. Und wie ich schon oft betont habe, Sicherheit gibt es nicht zum Nulltarif. Sicherheit kostet Geld, und gerade dann, wenn man angesichts einer neuen Bedrohungslage nachholen muss. Unser Anspruch muss sein, gemeinsam mit anderen Rückgrat zu sein der konventionellen Abschreckung und Verteidigung in Europa. Dazu gehen wir all in, wie man so schön sagt, mit der Brigade in Litauen, der Division 2025, unserer Rolle als logistischer Drehscheibe in Europa. Damit übernehmen wir diese Führungsaufgaben. Genauso wie mit unserer Initiative ESSI, European Sky Shield Initiative, Das ist inzwischen eine Erfolgsgeschichte. Es geht um die gemeinsame Beschaffung und Nutzung von Luftabwehrsystemen und dabei vor allen Dingen den Schwerpunkt im Auge behalten der Interoperabilität. Das erleichtert den gemeinsamen Einsatz, die Abstimmung der Systeme aufeinander, aber auch natürlich die Instandsetzung, Ausbildung und Übung. ESSI wächst heute um 2 weitere Mitglieder von 19 auf dann schon 21. Das ist eine beachtliche Zahl in der Kürze der Zeit. Heute werden wir Griechenland und die Türkei bei ESSI willkommen heißen. Und auch ebenfalls heute werde ich mit meinem slowenischen Kollegen Marjan einen ersten Kaufvertrag unterzeichnen im Rahmen von ESSI. Es geht um eine Feuereinheit IRIS-T SLM. Sie alle wissen, aktuell läuft die große Übung Steadfast Defender, die größte Übung seit dem Ende des Kalten Krieges. 12.000 deutsche Soldaten sowie 3.000 Fahrzeuge sind dabei. Damit sind wir der drittgrößte Truppensteller bei dieser Übung. Und diese Übung hat vor allen Dingen auch eins zum Ziel, zu üben und klarzumachen, dass Geschwindigkeit ein wichtiger Faktor ist. Es kommt auf Geschwindigkeit an, auf schnelle Verlegung von Personal und Material. Das ist wirksame Abschreckung. Wir haben vor 2 Wochen zusammen mit unseren polnischen und den niederländischen Freunden vor diesem Hintergrund den ersten Transportkorridor geschaffen, von West nach Ost. Effektive militärische Mobilität durch weniger Bürokratie und mehr Vereinheitlichung. Dieser Transportkorridor ist ausdrücklich offen auch für andere Teilnehmer. Diese Übereinkunft ist für mich heute auch Anlass, mich besonders zu freuen, meinen neuen polnischen Kollegen Władysław Koźmiak-Kamysz kennenzulernen. Ich freue mich sehr auf die Zusammenarbeit mit ihm. Wir wollen nicht nur die bilaterale Militärkooperation intensivieren, sondern auch das Weimarer Dreieck mit den Franzosen gemeinsam wieder zu mehr Leben verhelfen. Noch ein letztes Wort. Der Beitritt Schwedens ist überfällig. Schweden ist ein Partner, sobald er beigetreten ist, der sofort schlagkräftig und wirksam als NATO-Partner mit uns agieren kann. Ich werde gleich im Anschluss meinen Kollegen Paul Johnson treffen. Schweden muss jetzt in die NATO und die Verzögerung, die aktuelle oder die schon seit einiger Zeit andauern, da muss man sagen, strapaziert jegliche Geduld. Ich kann nur sagen, und ich rufe Budapest auf, jetzt zügig den Weg freizumachen. Vielen Dank soweit.
Herr Minister, die US-Regierung hat wieder davor gewarnt, dass der Ukraine die Munition ausgehen würde. Warum glauben Sie dennoch, dass es nicht zu wenig und nicht zu viel ist, was der Westen tut?
Ich glaube, wir können uns alle gemeinsam nicht den Vorwurf machen, dass wir nicht alles tun, was möglich ist. Ich habe es gestern gesagt und am Montag auch mit dem Kanzler in Unterlüsse in Niedersachsen. Die Rüstungsindustrie fährt die Kapazitäten auf, fährt die Produktion hoch, kauft Fabriken im Ausland, verkürzt die Lieferketten. Wir tun alles, was geht, und dennoch braucht die Produktion von Munition eben die Zeit, die sie braucht.
Herr Minister, wie nehmen Sie die Aussage Russlands auf, dass das Steadfast Defender Manöver aggressiv sei?
Das kommentiere ich nicht. Ich bin nicht der Vervielfältiger von unsinnigen Botschaften.
Herr Minister, was wissen Sie über russische Pläne für die Stationierung von atomaren Anti-Satellitenwaffen im Weltraum? Was kann die NATO tun, wenn Russland wirklich dort hart greifen sollte, an die Waffen?
Diese Meldungen sind meines Wissens sehr, sehr neu, jedenfalls für mich. Wir werden uns darüber mit unseren Partnern unterhalten. Auch das ist jedenfalls kein Thema, das uns dazu veranlassen sollte, übereilte Antworten zu geben oder zu glauben, welche zu haben. Das müssen wir abwägen, wir müssen die technischen Fragen klären und dann sehen, was daraus folgert.
Hat die Bundesregierung eigene Informationen über solche russischen Pläne?
Ich habe keine aktuell.
Lastenteilung ist ein großes Thema innerhalb der NATO. Würden Sie sagen, Europa ist bereit, in die Bresche zu springen, sollte der amerikanische Support weniger werden, beziehungsweise vielleicht sogar eingestellt werden?
Ich habe das schon im vergangenen Jahr gesagt, im letzten Sommer glaube ich schon, und mehrfach wiederholt. Europa muss mehr machen für die eigene Verteidigung, völlig unabhängig davon, wer nach dem Januar 25 im Weißen Haus sein wird. Es geht darum, dass die Amerikaner ein großes Interesse daran haben, ihr Engagement im Zweifel im Indopazifik hochzufahren und immer vor die Frage gestellt sein werden, kann man dann noch im gleichen Umfang das Engagement in Europa beibehalten und trotzdem gleichzeitig verlässlicher Partner sein. Aber selbst dann kämen wir in eine solche Situation möglicherweise. Deswegen kommt es darauf an, dass wir unsere Bemühungen hochfahren, stetig hochfahren und verlässlich hochfahren. Und da sind wir dabei.
Welches Signal wollen Sie mit dem die eigene Wehrfähigkeit?
Es geht vor allen Dingen erstmal darum zu zeigen, dass wir wieder bestimmte Dinge üben müssen, wie ich es gestern auch gesagt habe, die Verlegefähigkeit zu üben für große Mengen von Material und Personal, schnell von West nach Ost, um klarzumachen, dass wir im Falle eines möglichen Angriffs schnell auch in der Lage sind, die NATO-Verpflichtungen einzuhalten und zu erfüllen. Das tun wir gemeinsam und das ist ein großes und starkes Signal eben für die Verteidigungsfähigkeit der NATO und ihrer Alliierten.
Minister, do you have any news about German brigade in Lithuania? Any dates or?
Well, we are working every day on that issue. The brigade will be ready to fight if it's necessary in 27, and we are going forward step by step this year and next year, and I'm absolutely optimistic that we will be in time and ready in time.
Was kann die Ukraine vom heutigen Treffen im Detail erwarten?
Das Gleiche, das ist jedenfalls meine Erwartung wie in den letzten 2 Jahren auch und auch am Wochenende von der Münchner Sicherheitskonferenz. Es darf keinen Zweifel daran geben, dass wir geschlossen an der Seite der Ukraine stehen. Das ist, wir können uns so oft wie wir wiederholen, wie wir wollen. Es ist nicht nur ein Kampf der Ukraine gegen den russischen Aggressor. Es ist ein Kampf für die regelbasierte internationale Ordnung, für die Sicherheit jedes Landes vor einem solchen imperialistischen Angriff. Dazu müssen wir stehen. Und dazu müssen wir gemeinsam stehen und die Verantwortung mit übernehmen und helfen, wo immer wir können. Ich werde am Rande der Münchner Sicherheitskonferenz auch zu einem Treffen mit Abgeordneten des Senats und des Repräsentantenhauses zusammentreffen. Und natürlich werden wir auch über diese Fragen sprechen. I didn't get you.
Could you tell us something about the Munich Security Conference? And
Well,
what will be different this year?
Well, the difference will be that we do the same things than last year. We have to emphasize our willingness to support Ukraine. We have to emphasize our responsibility for the rule-based international order. This is the issue for all of us in this year too.
Can I just ask you, sir, sorry, I'm probably asking you to repeat yourself in English, but Mr. Trump's comments about NATO, how did you respond to them? I mean, are you genuinely concerned that Mr. Trump, if he gets a second term, could break up his alliance?
I don't expect that, but still, I'm not really in the mood to comment anything he's telling every day.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good morning. I would like to start today with the threat assessment because this is something we have to follow to make our decisions here in NATO. And what we see clearly is that Russia is beefing up its army, and it has already today more soldiers in its army than it had before invading Ukraine. And as you probably all know, that their plan is to go up to 1.5 million soldiers. When we take the tanks capable of fighting, when we take the armored vehicles, then we see that Russia is basically in the war economy. Their budget, military budget, is around 30% of the state budget, and that means that these actions, what we are making here in NATO, have to reply on that and have to echo on that. And I'm very glad that the regional plans we approved in Vilnius are addressing that threat very well. And these steps since Vilnius to today have been quite good. We've managed to get more forces into these regional plans, that these regional plans are executable. But of course, a lot is still to do, and this is important that every member of the NATO family takes this responsibility very seriously, that we need to give more forces to SACEUR's responsibility, and that we have enough forces to deter Russian threat. So, and this is probably the main focus today, that we have more forces, we have more finances, more resources to to increase our capabilities, our own capabilities, and hopefully we see also that by the Washington summit, which will also will be discussed, that we will have enough countries or more countries to have 2%, and of course the end target is that every country in NATO is investing to defense at least 2%. So you know that Estonia is doing 3.2, and we will keep that level at least 3% for the next years to come. So this is our plan, and of course we are very interested in what will be the discussion also in the corridors, what we can get out from the Washington summit.
About steadfast defenders. So Ukraine is the recent warning from the US government that the Ukrainian army is running out of ammunition. Why isn't it too little too late what the West is doing for the country?
Well, as you know that we've decided to send more ammunition in this 1 million round initiative, but of course it is obvious that we need to send it as soon as possible, and this is why also Estonia is taking from our stocks to send immediately, and we will do that. So I will be also going to Kiev next month, and this is something we all have to do. I understand that many countries do not have in the stocks something to send. This is why new money is needed to get the contracts also done for the industry, and then when we have for the industry the contracts, then we can also send ammunition. But of course it is obvious that it's not only Europe, it's also US, and we jointly need to send as much ammunition now, not in next year.
About steadfast defender,
yes.
Why is this maneuver so necessary, even though Russia is saying that it is aggressive?
Well, steadfast defender is just one of the actions in a row of different exercises, and also when we take the size of the steadfast defender, 90,000 soldiers, a lot of equipment, then I can say that the Estonian part of that is more than 10,000 soldiers during our spring storm exercise. But this is a clear message to Russia that we are operating together, that we are making joint exercises, and we are together, no matter how the threat will look like. But of course we have to address that threat, what is coming from Russia. So this is the clear signal that we are together.
How concerned are you about the reports that Russia is apparently developing a space-based nuclear weapons program?
Well, I've seen many different messages, and then once again, one thing is what they are saying for the informational operation, the other thing is what is the reality. But of course we have to look very deeply into that information and then see what the reality is, because you can say that I am developing something and getting that in 20 years, or I have already something. So this is why the intelligence has to work and then bring the actual information home, and then we can say how acute this threat is.
So some countries are now spending 2% on their defense by counting military support for Ukraine. Is that fair towards countries like yours that is actually spending 2% on their own defense?
Well, first, it is important that we are spending 2%, and when it's together with the aid to Ukraine, it's also better than having 1% without the aid to Ukraine, because Ukraine is fighting for our freedom also. And this is important that that every tank that is destroyed in Ukrainian territory of the Russian army is one tank less behind NATO's border. So I'm not so pessimistic or critical about that. So it is important that we are investing more into defense.
Minister, the question about Russian tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus, it's almost years since Lukashenko said that they will move this weapon. Is it really there, or it is kind of fake?
I've said that also before, that there is no difference. Is this nuclear weapon that Russia has in Belarus or in Russia very close to Estonian border, let's say? There is no difference, and we know the reach of the nuclear weapons and missiles. So this is why there is no difference. And when you're just saying that now there is some warheads in Belarus, doesn't make any difference to us and to our deterrence and to our actions.
Sir, Sweden is not yet part of NATO. How does that affect the effectiveness of the regional defense plan of Northern Europe, as long as Sweden is not a member? And what can you do again to get Hungary on board on this?
For me, Sweden has been the member already many months. This is not a question. And of course, this is just a matter of time. And I really do not understand why Hungary is postponing that. And I believe also for them, it's not very comfortable to be the last one. Because we remember that Orban said that they do not want to be the last ones. Now they are. So I hope that the coming weeks will bring the solution.
Burden sharing
Last
is an
question
important topic in the NATO. Is Europe willing and able to step up their support against the backdrop of a possible lack of American support?
Europe has to be ready to defend its territories also, and we are all in this together. So if one is attacked, everyone is attacked, and so simple it is. So we have one for all for one principle, and every member of the alliance has to count on that and has to take this very seriously. So this is why, as long as we have 31 and very soon 32 members of the NATO, then everybody has to be ready to defend each other. Thank you very much. We have many ministers to come. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Yuri Kabakis. I'm the new Defense Minister of Luxembourg. I'm very happy to be at my first NATO meeting today and to meet my new colleagues and homologues that I haven't already met in EU meetings. We know that the international security situation is very challenging, very complex, and also very dangerous. It's been almost 2 years since Russia has invaded Ukraine, with all the terrible consequences we know that this has had for Ukraine, but more generally for the entire world. For us, NATO unity and solidarity remains absolutely essential. For that, we need to continue to bolster also our forward defense on the eastern flank. Luxembourg is also present there with its boots on the ground, with troops stationed in Romania and also Lithuania. We need to continue also to bolster our armaments production, ammunition production, and also our common procurement, joint procurement. And in that sense, I also want to underline the very important role that the NATO agency NSPA, which is we are hosting in Luxembourg, plays today. Of course, we need to continue to invest in our defense, all of us collectively. Luxembourg will absolutely play its part. As new minister now, I am working on a roadmap also to get Luxembourg to 2% GNI investment in its defense. This is very important. We are a reliable partner and we will get there. And of course, we need to continue to support Ukraine, to continue to support Ukraine defense. We are doing that collectively. As Luxembourg, we have invested 16% of our defense budget 2022-2023 in support for Ukraine, and also there, as Luxembourg, we will continue to be ambitious in the defense. It is very important to help Ukraine, to continue to help Ukraine, because that's also an investment in our own security, which remains vital because we know that the menace is real. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Blair. I'm Canada's Minister of National Defence, and today I'll be announcing that Canada is acquiring some new capabilities on an urgent basis for Canadian troops, which will be deployed with NATO in Latvia. First, I am announcing that Canada has finalized the procurement of an air defence capability for Canadian Armed Forces members in Latvia, and we are acquiring the RBS-70NG air defence system through an investment of approximately $227 million with Saab. Once operational, this air defence system will defend our troops against aerial threats, including fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, and drones, and it will strengthen the defence capability of the battle group as a whole. Second, I am announcing that Canada has finalized the acquisition of new counter-drone equipment, which will enable Canadian soldiers in Latvia to detect and deter and defend against small drones that would seek to cause them harm, and through an investment of approximately $46 million, we're providing our troops with systems that can target, engage, and defeat these drones. We have also finalized contracts recently for anti-tank weapons on an urgent basis, as announced earlier in December. Our troops told us that they needed this equipment rapidly to give the changing security environment on NATO's eastern flank, and we expect that they'll have these tools in their hands later this year. We've designated all 3 procurements as urgent operational requirements. This is the first time that we've used this mechanism within our procurement legislation since the war in Afghanistan. This is defense procurement done differently, and it's one way that we are strengthening Canada's presence in Latvia. By 2026, we will more than double our military presence in Operation Reassurance with up to 2,200 deployed personnel. And I would conclude by reiterating that as a founding member of NATO, Canada steadfastly supports the principle of collective defense. And as we mark NATO's 75th anniversary, we are showing the world our capability, unity, and resolve. Thank you, and I'll happily take any questions you may have.
You mentioned some air defense systems Canada give it to some country, but also you have a Canadian ship and soldiers in Erbil city, the capital of the Iraqi Kurdistan.
Okay, I think we try again. If you're now able to find your seats, then we can start. So, good morning to all of you. It's good to see you. Welcome to this meeting of NATO Defense Ministers. Today we will take forward the decisions taken at the Vilnius summit last July to further strengthen our deterrence and defense. With new plans, improved command and control, streamlined logistics and strengthened air and missile defense. We will address our defense industrial capacity. We are ramping up production of much-needed weapons and ammunition for Ukraine's security and for ours. All of this requires us to invest more, and we are making good progress. Last year, we saw an unprecedented increase in defense spending across European allies and Canada, and this year, a record number of allies are spending 2% or more on defense. This ends the public part of the meeting. I thank the media for joining us at the top of the meeting. And we'll continue in just a moment.
Την ευκαιρία να συναντήσω τον Γάλλο ομολογό μου, τον Σεμπαστιάν Λεκορνού. Νομίζω ότι ο συντονισμός με την Γαλλία, με την οποία έχουμε μια στενή στρατηγική σχέση, είναι πάντα ιδιαίτερης σημασίας. Επίσης θα έχω την ευκαιρία να υπογράψω την προσχώρηση της Ελλάδας στο European Sky Shield Initiative, μια πρωτοβουλία της Γερμανίας για την αντιπυραυλική προστασία. Σημειώνω ότι την ίδια μέρα θα προσχωρήσει και η Τουρκία και από εκεί και πέρα θα έχω την δυνατότητα να συναντήσω τον Τούρκο ομολογό μου. Νομίζω ότι είναι μια καλή ευκαιρία για να υπενθυμίσουμε ότι είναι απολύτως απαραίτητο για τη διατήρηση του παρόντος κλίματος, ύφεσης, η αποφυγή οποιονδήποτε προκλήσεων, οποιονδήποτε ενεργειών μπορεί να δυναμητήσουν αυτή την ήρεμη ατμόσφαιρα που υπάρχει αυτή τη στιγμή. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Bonjour à toutes et à tous, bonjour à la presse. Je vais être rapide puisque la session va commencer. Déjà évidemment, vous redire que le président de la République s'est rendu en visite d'État en Suède il y a de cela maintenant quelques jours et donc on a beaucoup d'impatience à retrouver le partenaire suédois et l'ami suédois ici comme membre de l'Alliance. J'ai eu l'occasion de le dire hier au ministre de la Défense représentant le Royaume de Suède. Nous aurons l'occasion de le redire ce matin. Hier, évidemment, le format dit Rammstein de coordination et d'aide à l'Ukraine. La France a fait un point d'étape sur la coalition artillerie, notamment pour les canons César, avec l'urgence liée aux munitions. J'ai également eu un meeting de travail hier soir avec Thierry Breton pour organiser au mieux justement les efforts des Européens sur la gestion des stocks de poudre, sur la capacité à basculer en économie de guerre, à donc livrer de plus en plus non seulement des munitions à l'Ukraine, mais aussi des pièces détachées, être en situation de lever les difficultés d'entretien aussi des différentes pièces d'artillerie qui ont été transférées à l'Ukraine. Et comme vous le savez, la France sera en mesure, grâce à son économie de guerre désormais qui se déploie, de livrer 78 canons César à l'Ukraine en cette année 2024. Aujourd'hui, il va être question évidemment des efforts que chaque membre de l'Alliance doit faire pour assurer et assumer la sécurité collective et évidemment aussi les postures de dissuasion. Comme vous le savez, le président de la République, depuis son élection en 2017, a décidé de doubler le budget de la défense nationale française, donc un budget autour de 30 milliards d'euros en 2017. On sera à terme à 69 milliards d'euros, ce qui me permet de vous confirmer que la France remplira l'objectif des 2% donnés par l'OTAN, 2% du PIB, en cette année 2024. Alors, la vraie question maintenant, c'est pas tant d'obtenir ces 2%, même si c'est un sujet qui a l'air de passionner beaucoup de gens, c'est de faire en sorte évidemment que ces 2% du PIB soient véritablement utiles sur le terrain militaire. Ce ne sont pas des chiffres, ce ne sont pas des tableaux, ce n'est pas de l'argent public qui va dissuader la Fédération de Russie de nous faire la guerre ou en tout cas de vouloir attenter à notre sécurité collective, c'est véritablement ce que l'on en fait. Donc j'aurai l'occasion de dire dans un instant qu'au-delà des 2% de PIB, il faut aussi regarder la part d'investissement réel dans les équipements. Je vous rappelle que l'OTAN donne aussi un indicateur à l'ensemble de ses membres. Celui-là est moins connu, c'est le chiffre de 20%. La France est à 30%, c'est-à-dire 10 points au-dessus justement de cet indicateur en matière d'investissement d'équipements militaires. La capacité aussi à réellement mettre à disposition de l'Alliance des moyens capacitaires en nombre d'heures d'avions, d'aviation de chasse disponibles par exemple, sur des sujets de mobilité militaire, sur les capacités à déployer évidemment sur les espaces maritimes différentes patrouilles qui permettent de sécuriser et de dissuader, puis bien sûr aussi le déploiement de forces terrestres comme nous le faisons avec notre statut de nation cadre en Roumanie ou comme nous le faisons avec un groupe interarmé en Estonie. Donc la question des 2% du PIB qui reprend la lumière beaucoup ces derniers temps dans les médias est un objectif louable. D'ailleurs, la France le remplit en 2024, mais il n'étouffe pas et n'épuise pas l'ensemble des autres conversations que nous devons avoir sur la capacité à faire du militaire réel et du militaire concret. En tout cas, c'est ce que la France, avec son armée d'emploi, avec l'ensemble de son appareil de défense nucléaire et conventionnel, rappellera ce matin à ces sessions de travail de cette ministérielle de l'OTAN qui nous emmènera à cet été au sommet de Washington. Je vous remercie. Merci beaucoup.
Hello everybody, can I ask you to go to the Phoenix Square and media area? Do we have to leave the... Yes, we have to leave here. Okay, go to the Phoenix Square, okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, we're done over here.
Sorry?
We're done over here. Yes.
Come back?
There's no one.
It's a meeting.